All right, everybody, welcome back. It's the end of the world. Michael and Stu.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Stu. And today we are talking about an actual masterpiece for once, not an ironical one. And that is The Shining from 1980, directed by, have you ever heard of this guy? Stanley Kubrick.
No, but you've got some good notes here. Yeah, you'll be able to fill me in. Sure.
This is actually only the second Kubrick movie that we've done. We covered Dr. Strangelove, of course, one of our first 10 episodes. Still under listened to. Not that I'm just complaining now about like which episodes are under. I got to stop that. It's getting old. But as I was thinking about it, there's a bunch of his other films that we could easily do. I mean, Eyes Wide Shut, Full Metal Jacket, Clockwork Orange, 2001.
To name just three.
Just possibly almost all of his films. I think we could probably figure out.
I mean, I feel like if we can do The Shining, we can do basically any.
Well, I think that you'll come to see that I have some very real end of the world sort of analysis of The Shining that will shock and stun you. But before we get into all that, let's talk about one of our recurring characters, new fave on the pod. That's right, it's Sam Altman. He's back after just a couple weeks away, and you sent this to me. And it's pretty funny. I like that his Twitter handle is just Sama, S-A-M-A. I'm sure it's Sam A, but it looks like...
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good jumping off point here because we did talk about the sort of origin story, but that there is an irony in the tweet. It basically, what happened, I think it was today, right? He announced that he's hiring a head of preparedness, which is the very first sentence of a very long tweet. But I do just want to say, I'll just read the first bit and the last bit.
Sure.
Really we are hiring a head of preparedness. First thought, where was this? Right? One would think that someone leading up preparedness might have been a good idea from get-go, but he now registers. This is, quote, a critical role at an important time.
No, well.
Good, that's good. Because models are improving quickly. I guess that wasn't happening before, and are now capable of many great things.
Very Trumpian.
But they are also starting to present some real challenges. The potential impact of models on mental health was something we saw a preview of in 2025. I mean, this is like villain shit.
Yeah,
right. Like
it's something we saw. We saw a preview of it.
Of just a taste of what's to come for the total disrepair of your own mental health.
I mean, we've seen this throughout the whole AI story. I mean, since 22. Yeah.
We are just now seeing models get so good at computer security, yay, that they are beginning to find critical vulnerabilities, nay. And Stu, who could have seen this coming?
Certainly not me.
And so it ends with another one that is pretty great. This will be a stressful job. And you'll jump into the deep end pretty much immediately. I love that. Just like the head of preparedness recklessly thrown to the wolves is like a true, like,
completely unprepared for preparedness.
You better be so prepared that it's really without training. You're going to learn on the job here.
Yeah, it's trial by fire. And the job pays a cool $500,000 a year.
Yeah, well, it's actually $555 base, if you're interested.
Incentives if you're extra prepared.
He showed so much preparedness. I just wanted to bring it up because it's like, I feel as though we have heard this, like you've said, it's sort of been an undertone of the whole.
I mean, from New York Times people like having mental breakdowns because they think AI is sentient. That was happening in like early 23.
Right, or there was
like that Google guy that went nuts.
Someone one of the models was upgraded, and a previous model threatened to blackmail engineers.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
There've just been these moments,
stuff.
Right? But this is really just sort of out there now, right?
Yeah.
It's like that. Like it seems clear that Altman and the likes of Altman are starting to see that this might not go their way. It feels like. And the sort of like calls in the background of, oh, we've got to do this safely. Of course. Oh, you got to have guardrails, Stu. You simply must have guardrails. Is it now like it just feels like they're preparing us more and more for the nightmare that so many of us have been ironically somewhat prepared for, to be honest.
I fear as much. I also just think that they've received so much unrelenting bad press, basically, for everything that they've done throughout the entire. I mean, I can't think of a moment when people were like, yeah, this is good. Like, this isn't going to destroy the environment, destroy jobs, ruin college, ruin art, ruin television.
And again, like all of those things are horrible, like in and of themselves. But like, there just seems to be something so especially callous about this job posting
on Twitter.
It's like the potential impact of models on mental health was something we saw a preview of in 2025.
Like as if we couldn't have maybe prepared a little better for that possibility.
Well, and just like look what we're prepared to like
tolerate
and pretend to care about as we push forward.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, that's it.
This seems like, to me, this feels like a very dark moment in the evolution of AI.
Yeah, and in the evolution of human mental health, which I think allows us for a perfect transition into this week's topic.
Yes, exactly.
The Shining.
The Shining.
One of the most talked about movies ever. One of the most famous movies ever. I think
that's fair.
I've probably seen The Shining at least 10 times.
Oh, okay.
From a very
probably half that.
From a very early, maybe I'm exaggerating, but I've seen it many, many times. I've seen it twice in the last 2 weeks. I went to see it in IMAX about 10 days ago, just sort of the genesis.
How was that?
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Just so big.
The opening shot sequence must be great.
Oh, just everything. All the faces. There's so many close-ups. Just the horror. Jack Nicholson's acting in this, and Shelley Duvall's. It's so over the top.
Remarkable.
So over the top, but in the perfectly tuned way, which is, of course, the result of Kubrick's famous method, which I think he maxed out on this, which is doing like literally hundreds of takes of every scene, except with a few exceptions. But like the famous thing on the staircase when Shelley Duvall's swinging the bat, that was apparently shot like 180 times or something, and that by the end of it they were both completely.
Her calves must have been.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. They were both like completely insane from exhaustion, which is the method to his madness.
But it does really like one of the not to sum it up at the beginning, but the thing about the acting is it sort of almost magically steers just clear of becoming camp.
Absolutely.
I don't really understand how they managed to do it. Because of the nature of the movie and the dialogue and the action, it's like it feels like it should be almost a send-up horror, and it somehow doesn't do that.
Yeah, and I mean, considering the source material, famously, this is adapted from the novel by Stephen King, which is terrible. I mean, Stephen King...
Really? And you're not a King fan?
I hate King. I mean, King is a terrible writer. You know what I will say about King? He is a really good conceptual artist. In terms of coming up with good...
A lot of his things have been adapted into classics.
Yeah, although he famously hates this movie. He thinks this...
Because it's good?
Basically. I think partly it's because...
Doesn't pay enough homage to the train wreck that was the book.
I mean, exactly. Jack Nicholson is also just is playing him. And he is just... The Jack Nicholson character, I think we can safely say, is completely irredeemable. Like, there's like nothing good about this guy. Like, we'll talk about it some more as we get in. I'm sure most people who are listening to this have already seen the movie. So maybe we'll try and do a little less blow by blow plot summary, which we should probably do less of anyway, just because, I don't know, it could be fun. But so, of course, we see the opening scene. They're riding in a VW. Jack Nicholson's character, Jack Torrance, is headed to the Overlook Hotel, where he's applying to be the winter caretaker, the mountainside Colorado hotel that shuts down for the winter. Not like there's any weird logical fallacy. He even mentions it in the interview. He's like, well, there's so many mountains. Why don't you have skiing? And they're like, it's too much money to plow the roads, as if that's not true for like every other.
That's right. I just love also too that like the opening shots are so big, and it seems like he's traveling so far, and then in the interview he's like, "Oh yeah, I made great time. It only took me 3.5 hours."
Yeah.
Feels like this huge road trip.
Yeah, the opening shots were actually shot in Montana at Glacier National Park by helicopter. All of the interiors in this movie are in England on studios. The whole hotel is fake. It's all sets at Elstree Studios, which was Kubrick's base of operations for many of his greatest pictures. The actual overlook is not even in Colorado. It's on the slope of Mount Hood, and spoiler alert, it is in fact a huge ski resort. In fact, in one of the scenes, there's even a skiing poster for Monarch Mountain, which is in Colorado. And again, you're kind of like, well, what's that doing? What's that doing here? This isn't a ski. Anyway, right. I just love this concept. What we come to learn is that the reason it's not a ski resort is it's actually a getaway for the jet set. It was built in the early 20th century, really in a remote location as a kind of safe place where the rich and famous could congregate without being bothered by the hoi polloi, essentially. Right. In the lineage of places like Bohemian Grove, or like these like, it's not quite Bohemian Grove. I mean, it's a hotel, right? So presumably, if you have enough money, you can stay there. But we get the idea that this is from an era when people like FDR would go on vacation there. Maybe even retired Teddy Roosevelt would stop by, and a visiting prince would spend
a useful enough explanation for why the place doesn't bother being open in the winter.
Which is fine. We'll leave that aside.
Sure.
He gets the job. He's very calm and collected. He has great recommendations somehow. We find out that he's moved to Colorado after leaving his job as a teacher in Vermont. Mm-hmm. So he's just going from ski area to ski area, apparently. And he's got a wife and a young son, Danny. His wife is Wendy. As the interview is going on, we cut back to them. Danny has an imaginary friend called Tony that he speaks through his finger. That apparently is the innovation of the actor, like the moving the finger while Tony is talking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the kid is quite good as far as child actors go.
Absolutely.
Essentially, there's a bit of bad news, though, about the hotel. It seems about 10 years ago, the previous caretaker, Charles Grady, did go insane, murder his 2 daughters and wife before shooting himself. Jack...
That is quite a story.
Yeah, which is what Jack says, and he just kind of... He's very nonplussed by the whole thing. He's just like, well, I can assure you that won't happen this time, or something, which is great. We're also just like... They mentioned cabin fever as the cause of this insanity. As they're touring the hotel, it's also mentioned that it's built on an old Indian burial ground.
Yeah, that old chestnut.
And he's like, oh, Wendy will love this. My wife's a ghost story and horror film addict, which is something we...
Happens to love this stuff.
We see no evidence for this. Danny has some kind of psychic ability called The Shining. He has an apocalyptic vision of blood flowing out of the elevator. Sees these 2 menacing twin girls. He has a seizure. Doctor comes. She's like, oh, it's probably nothing. So how long has Danny had this imaginary friend? Blah, blah, blah. Wendy's like in such denial. She's like, I guess it started that time that, we took him out of preschool because his dad dislocated his shoulder after
by mistake. Yeah.
He scattered some papers.
You know how that happens. You pull too hard on your kids sometimes.
Just pull the arm right out of the socket. This is pretty standard, really.
I also love, there's so many great throwaway lines. Like, he's a writer, right? That's his whole thing, and he wants to get away. That's like the reason he takes the job.
That's justification for his interest in the
job. But
job.
He's also like, he's not writing anything. He's like, I'm outlining a writing project.
That's what he says. Yeah,
I think that's so funny.
It's good.
Just 5 months of outlining, which we see he does a hell of a job.
Another thing that bothers me is they're going. The hotel shuts down at the end of October, and they're staying until May 1st. That's 6 months. It's not 5 months. Anyway.
Well, surely they can be operational in April, but I don't know. I guess
no, they open May 1st. It's very important. May Day, the workers' day. Anyway, right. As they're driving up, the Donner Party is mentioned. We're getting like so many like just ominous things. This is the possibility of cannibalism, Indian burial ground, cabin fever murder. It's like Kubrick's really
definitely it doesn't shy away from itself, which is also remarkable in the way it still manages to be fairly suspenseful and exciting, right? Like you know what you're getting into, both because culturally, if you've seen this movie for the first time somehow, you basically know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
But even after all these times, it still grips you. Even though like the kid just right away, you just know.
Yeah, the kid's like having visions of blood pouring out of the elevator.
Yeah, exactly.
That is not an upbeat vision, you know?
Yeah.
One funny thing I noticed this time, the manager, this sort of dry corporate empty suit guy, is called Stuart Ullman. His assistant, Bill Watson. Stuart Watson. Maybe this is why I've seen this movie so many times. I'm implicated. They tour around the place. Danny's playing darts, sees the twin girls. We see the gold room. We meet Scatman Crothers, who's playing Mr. Halloran, who's the African-American cook. He and Danny have this psychic rapport. There's that great weird scene of exposition where he's like, some people are psychic. It's a little bit of the, magical black person trope here that I think is a little unfortunate. Although Halloran's role in the movie, I think, is fantastic overall. It's established Danny knows something's dark about this place, and he specifically asked about room 237. Halloran's like, there's nothing in there. Stay away from it. Uh-oh. Then the other thing I like in this movie, time. The cuts in time are very strange. So we cut to a month later. They've been there for a month. Jack spends his days throwing a ball against the wall. He sleeps into 11. Wendy makes him breakfast in bed. One thing I love about this, Jack's the caretaker. Throughout the entire movie, we never see him do a single thing to take care of anything in the hotel. We see him typing frantically at a few points, but eventually
doesn't repair a single thing. It's all laid out, all the different things he's going to have to do.
Doesn't do any of it.
Doesn't lift a finger.
We see Wendy doing it. We see Wendy checking on the boilers. Wendy's like, but Jack does nothing. He's a writer, but he's having trouble getting back in the groove. He's the kind of guy who wants to be a writer. That the kind of person who's like, I've been stymied, but I've always wanted to be a writer.
Yeah. It's in there. Yeah.
But they never actually have done it. So they have no discipline. They have no.
They've just been a writer.
And they have nothing really to say, as it turns out, right? We also see the maze, the labyrinth. There's a certain Minotaur labyrinth, a Hitchcockian kind of element here. There's a quote from Hitchcock: "The convolutions of the human brain resemble those of a maze." There's the great scene where they're off in the maze playing, and Jack is looking at a model of the maze and seems to see them. That's the only special effects shot in the whole movie. Yeah. Is they superimposed that the image of them walking around the center onto a model of the maze rather. Eventually, he starts typing frantically. Oh, Danny notices room 237 but stays away. This is a month in, and Jack is already completely insane, right? I mean, it's like
right. And it seems like getting further into his writing is basically the main driver of the insanity.
Yeah, he says you're not allowed to come in here when I'm writing. Whenever you hear the clickety clack, whatever the fuck you hear me doing when I'm in here, that means don't come in. Why don't you start right now and get the fuck out of here? Just the way he delivers this is so just like, how could anyone ever talk to their partner like that, right?
Yeah.
Like I would, if I did that, I would expect to be murdered. Like, that's just completely crazy. Wendy is startled, is clearly like if not literally a beaten woman psychologically by this guy. He is a demon. They're outside playing, and he is just doing the Kubrick stare. He's just like dead-eyed, the famous image that I used for the icon of the episode. Then we start cutting to things like Saturday. From then on, all the cuts are like 2 days, but non-specific days. Like, we have no idea how much.
That mean nothing.
There's like no idea. Is this the Monday after the Saturday? Nothing is explained. It could be a month later. It could be a week later. It could be a day later, right? There's a storm. All the lines have been severed. There's an ominous scene when Danny wants to get a toy and he goes to see his father. Jack can't sleep. He's just sitting terrifyingly in the bedroom. Earlier, Danny saw the twins and they said that they wanted to stay. Come and play with us, Danny, forever and ever and ever. And then when he's talking with his dad, the dad says, don't you like it here, Danny? I wish we could stay here forever and ever and ever, right? Almost as though he's being infected by the spirits that linger in the hotel. You would never hurt Mommy and me, would you? And then immediately, as soon as Danny asks him that, he's like, your mother put you up to this. One of the best readings of the film that I encountered was one by the writer Cale Brooks, who was an editor in Jacobin and was on the Jacobin show with Jen Pan, a great bygone YouTube show. And he wrote, like, there's so many analyses of this movie that everyone's like, oh, is it a secret apologia for Kubrick hoaxing the moon landing or whatever? Like, people have gone through such absurd lengths to read meaning into this. And his essays, I think it's called something like, what is it that we overlook in The Shining? And his basic point is that, like, no, this is just what's on the surface is what you're seeing. This is like abusive Oedipal relationship where there's a struggle for the mother's affection between the son and the father reverts into a violent killing maniac, which the son has to defeat, right? I mean, that the simple Freudian psychological reading is the best way of understanding it, right? And as he's like holding the son there, it's very obvious. He's like, I would never do anything to hurt you. You know that, don't you? Yes, Dad. It's just like, oh my God. Then ominously, Wednesday. This is when Danny first goes into room 237. He comes out a little while later. Wendy and Jack are talking at the writing desk, and he's been strangled. He's got his Apollo sweater is all pulled out of place, right? And Wendy is immediately like, how could you do this again, you monster? Right? There's no obvious explanation for who strangled Danny. We could either believe the ghost did it. We could believe that Jack did it in the earlier scene. It's unclear. And he as this is happening, Jack's explaining that he just woke up from a nightmare in which he murdered Wendy and Danny with an axe.
But didn't just kill you.
He cut them up into little pieces. Right? After this point, Danny is mostly non-verbal, but Tony kind of speaks through him. Jack is like, Wendy comes to Jack. She's like, oh my God, no, there's a woman in the hotel with us. She strangled Danny. She's in room 237. So Jack goes in, and this is another one of the most memorable scenes. I think Roger Ebert was the first to point this out, but many have, that whenever Jack is interacting with one of the ghosts or entities in the hotel, there's a mirror present. So it's almost like he's actually talking to himself, right? Sure. He goes to the bar before he goes to room 237, the gold room, where a bartender, Lloyd, whom he seems to know, is miraculously there. He says, here's to 5 miserable months on the wagon, all the irreparable harm that it's caused me. So there's also a time ambiguity.
White man's burden.
He says the thing about white man's burden, which a lot of people interpret calls back to the genocide of the indigenous Americans, like that is alluded to with the graveyard scene, and the
burial ground.
They had to fight off the natives when they were building the hotel in 1900 or whatever. It's a little bit unclear. He also, says 5 months. I've been here. Earlier we learned that he hurt Danny 5 months ago, but then during his sort of ranting about how Wendy will never forgive him, he says he hurt Danny 3 years ago. So there's like a lot of like temporal uncertainty in this picture. Like, we just don't know when anything really happened. I think that's okay.
I think if it's purposeful, it's great. I mean, it's the delirium that you feel while you're watching it is almost like a unique experience in movie watching to me.
As he says, I did hurt him once. Okay, it was an accident, completely unintentional, and that was 3 years ago, right? And he's like, calls Wendy a bitch for not letting him forget. Eventually, now Wendy comes and is like, no, there's a woman here. She did. He goes into room 237, sees a beautiful woman getting out of the green, hideous green bathroom. He's glides up to her and they immediately start making out. He's really happy. Finally, he can hook up with someone who isn't his hideous, awful wife that he hates. But then he looks in the mirror and sees that, it's actually a wretched, decaying hag. Don't you hate it when that happens?
So the same as my wife.
Like, I mean, that's the subtext, right?
Yeah, exactly.
One point that I thought worth mentioning, there's almost never sex in Kubrick's movies. There's like sexuality and there's attraction, but there's very rarely, even like Eyes Wide Shut, right? A movie that's about sex. All the sex is so cold and like a Jeffrey Epstein evil party, right? I mean, eventually Halloran starts to pick up on psychic vibes, and we have this Halloran subplot of him making his way, which is to me one of the great examples of anticlimax in film, because you have the expectation, oh man, finally, like Halloran's getting the psychic message. He's gonna go to the hotel. He's gonna save the day. He's gonna rescue them, and we'll get to how that resolves quickly. So Jack comes back and is like, there was nothing there. Danny's lying. You know, like he did it to himself. I don't know. He starts ranting about his she wants to take Danny away because he's obviously at risk. And he's like, you're forgetting about my obligations to my employers.
I love that too. Like all of this stuff is happening to them. And he's like, what about my responsibilities of this job I just took that is seemingly like completely meaningless, ends in 5 months, and your wife is doing it anyway.
I mean, exactly. But if you've known crazy people, this is something that happens. They fixate on legal technicalities and meaninglessness in a way that's unshakable. You're just like, none of that matters. Like, it literally doesn't matter. Like, don't.
Right, and it helps them get through in a way, right?
Well.
Not through, but it helps them hang on sometimes.
It gives them an anchor. Let's put it that way.
That's right.
An anchor to reality. Not usually a very helpful one, however. He starts trashing the hallway. He goes back to the gold room. Now there's flappers everywhere. It's a huge party. There's a spill on him. He goes into the bathroom and has the encounter with Delbert Grady. Not different name than the guy who was mentioned as murdering his kids. But he assumes this is the same guy, right? There's this whole vibe in the film of repetition, right? So maybe there was a Charles Grady in 1970. Maybe there was a Delbert Grady in the 30s who did the same thing, right? The idea, and this all ties in at the end with the photo of him that we see in the final shot, as though he's always been there. And in fact, that is one of the key takeaways. You know, he's like, you used to be the caretaker. And he says, no, sir, you are the caretaker. You always been the caretaker. I should know, sir. I've always been here. Which is the best line in the movie, in my opinion, because it's just like, what on earth do you mean? Throughout the conversation in the hideous red bathroom, they're also just talking across each other in this weird way. Like, they're not even looking at each other. Wendy's losing it. She wants to evacuate. She wants to get away. Danny has started his ominous red room chant. Red room, red room. Very eerie, very uncanny. Tony is here. Danny's not here, Mrs. Torrance. Danny can't wake up, Mrs. Torrance. Danny's gone away, Mrs. Torrance. It's just like Jack trashes the radio, trashes the snowcat. Halloran's on his way, though. He's going to save the day. We catch Halloran flying in. Danny's watching the Roadrunner and the Coyote. People have made much of this because what does the Roadrunner do? The Roadrunner endlessly leads the Coyote on chases that result in him, the Coyote, falling off a cliff or into a giant Acme mousetrap, or what, that like Danny is the Roadrunner, Jack is the Coyote, I think is the analogy. There's the bat scene where she sees his novel and he's all he's been writing, and this is very important for a lot of reading of the story. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, which he has written over and over and over again for hundreds and hundreds of pages. Apparently, Kubrick's secretary generated this text, and it took her 6 months to do. Yeah, and they had to do multiple versions of it because
when they're showing shots of it, I was like, this is a pretty brilliant novel.
No, this is great. This is language. This is like, if only real language poetry was this good.
Absolutely.
Actually, the way that
the work really hits in the movie. It's incredible.
The way that it's set differently, like it breaks. There's like almost like poetry. There's parts where and there's also so many typos and strike throughs, and it feels very organic to what a maniac would do were he to attempt something like this. Jack emerges and he's like, "How do you like it?" We cut back to Danny. He gets the lipstick. He writes. He has the flash forward to the red room written on the door, which he himself will do with lipstick shortly. There's the staircase scene, which I said took 180 takes. He's again ranting about his responsibility to his employers. Do you have the slightest idea what a moral and ethical principle is? Do you? Has it ever occurred to you what would happen to me if I failed to live up to my responsibilities?
As he's like telling this person they're gonna die, he's like, "Do you have any idea what ethics are?" It's so funny.
He's like, "I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in, bash them right the fuck in." It's just... Eventually, she cracks him on the head. He falls down the staircase. That's a stuntman who does the fall. Obviously, I wonder how many times that stuntman had to fall down the stair. Kubrick's like, "No, run it again, back it up."
Yeah, tough gig when you're with Kubrick, right?
Yeah, I mean, apparently he made Scatman Crothers, the Halloran character, like fall down in one of the scenes. I think maybe the scene when he gets killed. And he had to fall down like 85 times. And the next day he was like, "I have to go to a chiropractor, man." Apparently Kubrick just tormented Scatman. And that Scatman
really?
That he just made him do, he wasn't quite satisfied with any of his line readings. So he would just make them just take it again, you know. Right. Kubrick, a true maniac, like a true madman. But you know, when you
treated Shelley Duvall terribly on set as well. Right?
Well, I think treated basically everyone terribly, but yes, famously Shelley Duvall. Some allegations about that emerged. I think she just passed last year, I believe, and I think that came back up again. The famous scene: he gets locked in the storeroom. Wendy has a knife. She goes to take the snowcat. Oh, he's ruined it. We hear Jack speaking with Grady through the storm. This is the only part where it's like absolutely necessary in some readings of the film for a ghost to have been the one to let Jack out, because he's locked in there. There's no means for him to escape.
Yeah. He's like, let me get back to my job too.
Yeah. What was his job for the hotel's perspective?
He's like, it's all I ask. He wants me one more chance.
He wants to, and his job is to kill his family, right?
That's right.
He's like, this is my obligation to my employer. I must murder my family. We get the great Wendy, I'm home, come out whenever you are. He's got the axe. He axes his way.
There's just so many moments that are just indelible. It's incredible. It's an incredible run, this end of this movie.
Oh yeah. He cracks through the bathroom door and does the face to the crack. Here's Johnny thing, which is, you know, the Simpsons did it. Everyone's done it. He's so deranged looking. Like it's really a bravura performance by Nicholson. Like Danny sneaks out the window, but Wendy, despite Shelley Duvall being like the thinnest person who's ever lived, cannot fit through the window, right? But luckily, just as he's axed his way into the bathroom, he hears a snowcat coming. Halloran has finally made his arrival. Danny has escaped temporarily. He goes and hides down in the basement. And just, we've been made to feel that he's going to save them. But what does Halloran do? He just walks in. He's like, "Hello, anybody home?" Yeah. Like in the most oblivious.
Right. So he has these capabilities, but like he's not prepared for anything that's about to happen.
No, I mean it's the most.
Couldn't be Altman's guy.
It's an absolutely hilarious indictment of his psychic powers.
Absolutely.
And Jack, who at this point is falling down the stairs, he's hurt his ankle. He has a cut on his hand. He hides behind a pillar, and as Halloran's just like looking around, he just emerges in one of the great shots, just axes him right in the heart.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God. And you're just like, well, so much for that, right? And it reminded me of that scene. Did you ever see Desperado, the Banderas movie? I haven't seen it in probably 30 years. There's this whole movie. He's like, I've got to get my friends, and he has two other guitar weapon friends. I think one of them has a missile launcher. And these friends show up, and you're like, oh, the bad guys are screwed now. And then like they go on a little rampage in the town, and then just immediately both of these awesome friends are killed. And you're like, wait, what the fuck? Like, that's another example of anticlimax, where something's built up so much it arrives and then just immediately dissipates, which I think is weirdly true to life. You know, so many of the things we think are going to be these great highs and excitements of our life end up just being
like Obama.
Yeah. All of my relationships. No, you know. Anyway, now we see that like Jack is fixated on killing Danny for some reason.
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Danny leads him outside. He turns the lights on. He follows Danny into the maze. Then Wendy is trying to find Danny. And this is when she enters just a phase of utter madness. Yeah. And she starts seeing all these apparitions, beginning with the infamous pig bear man with his butt flap open in his furry suit, giving a blowjob with his horrible twisted mouth to this random guy in a tuxedo. Who
and like they cut back to her, and it's like one of the great, like you just have to be kidding me, you know, like I've been through so much, like what am I staring at right now?
And the way they're looking at her,
perfect.
They're like,
she's incredible in this moment.
They're like, excuse me, we're like doing something here, you know. They're not like angry. They're just kind of like, they're not even ashamed. There's like dead stare back. It's amazing. She continues to run around the hotel. She has we'll talk a little bit more about the bear guy in a second. Basically, she sees a few more ghosts. She sees a guy whose head's been split open. She sees that she finds Halloran's body. Like Jack is screaming, "Danny, I'm coming. You can't get away. I'm right behind you." In the Brooks essay, he talks about this is like Nicholson transforms into the primal father. He's like, "You can't escape me, son. Like I'll always be here. I'm God the Father, essentially." There's cobwebs all over the lobby suddenly. And then the one scene in the whole movie that I think is kind of a letdown is when suddenly there's just skeletons everywhere. And they look a little bit like Halloween store skeletons. and for just, it's just for a split second. But to me, it feels like, oh, it's a haunted house. Like what? And then we're back away from it. All of this stuff is alluding to stuff in the King novel. But it's kind of like Kubrick dismissively like gesturing at a few tropes from the King novel. And King was so angry about this. Like, we'll talk about that in a second. Eventually, we see them the chase through the maze. Danny does the ultimate move, which is to backtrack through his own footprints. Yeah. Right? He retreats backwards. He regresses and hides. And Jack has been following him. It's also kind of running out of energy a little bit here, right? This has been a pretty manic chase.
It's been a long day for everybody.
And Wendy, right before this, like as Danny's hiding, Wendy comes to the elevator, and we finally see again the rivers of blood flowing out of the left elevator door. Just one of the great shots in all of cinema. No explanation for it. We don't know what happened in the elevator. How many people would have had to die for that amount of blood? I mean, it doesn't matter, right? Is it real? Is it imagined? Again, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Jack is stymied. Wendy goes and gets into the snowcat that Halloran has brought, which Jack has not had the chance to sabotage. Jack's lost in the maze. He hears them revving up the engine. She's reunited. Danny speaks as himself again. And he's just like, Mom, it's me. And we're like, oh, where's Tony? Maybe Tony has been exercised in that moment of primal retracing of steps, right? And the next shot is, as they're pulling away, we cut to mannequin of Jack Nicholson frozen to death in the middle of the maze. And that's it. We don't know what happened to them. We just see he's dead. He didn't make it. And then there's the long zoom shot in
very long
the lobby of the hotel, very slowly coming into this picture, which we see is from 1921. And there's a bunch of flappers, and right at the forefront is Jack Nicholson.
Life of the party.
July 4th, 1921. And we have, presumably this, I think, is the party that we were meant to have seen him interrupting earlier. That's a real photo from the 20s that Jack was composited into.
Oh, cool.
It's not, it looks flawless. I mean, even in IMAX when it's just, you can't see any like
interesting
trace that it's because they talked about how to do it, and like I initially was like, God, it must have been a weird day when they had all those extras in like 20s garb posing for this photo, right?
Yeah.
It didn't work. They had to do it this way.
Huh.
All right, so one of the great movies. I love everything about it. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes long, but it has a pace that just works somehow. It doesn't feel that long to me. As opposed to a 90 plus minute movie like I Am Legend, which,
I mean, I was going to say that,
like, took me like 100
remarkable.
Took me like 100 years to finish watching.
I think I could have watched The Shining 3 times and it would have felt not as long as one watch of I Am Legend.
Agreed. So the big reading of this that I want to lean on as we wrap it up is from Frederick Jameson, the great post-structuralist thinker, the champion of postmodernism, obviously, among many other, Marxist, historicist, very smart. Just passed, I think last year, maybe 2 years ago. Wonderful guy. Never had the chance to meet the man or hear him speak, sadly. But his work is invaluable. He basically, his reading of the movie is that it is about the loss of group identity after the Second World War, and particularly after the 60s. And that for him, it's also a meta, it's about a lot of things for him, but it's like a meditation on genre and like the dissipation of the power of genre in Hollywood movies itself. So just a couple quotes. So he says, "The end of the golden age of the genre film, musicals, westerns, film noir, the classical Hollywood comedy or farce, then predictably coincides with its codification and theorization in so-called auteur theory, where the various grade B or standard productions are now valorized as so many fragments and windows on a whole luminous and distinctive generic world. No one whose life and imagination were marked and burned by the great images of film noir or infected by the immemorial gestures of the Western can doubt the truth of this for a moment. Still, the moment in which the deeper aesthetic vitality of genre comes to consciousness and becomes self-conscious may also be the moment in which genre in that older sense is no longer possible." So in other words, The Shining is like a horror movie, but it's so self-aware that like you kind of can't be a genre movie when you're so self-aware, right? And like it's the end of an epoch. It's an exercise in like meta filmmaking.
Interesting.
He goes on to say, "Beauty and boredom. This is the immediate sense of the monotonous and intolerable opening sequence of The Shining and of the great aerial tracking shot across quintessentially breathtaking and picture postcard unspoiled American natural landscape, as well as of the great hotel, whose old-time, turn-of-the-century splendor is undermined by the more meretricious conceptions of luxury entertained by consumer society, and in particular by the manager's modern office space and the inevitable plastic coffee he has his secretary serve," right? So it's like, this is a throwback to an America where there was grandeur and ambition and like self-aware flaunting of class stratification, where like rich people were rich and went to these rich places and lived luxuriously and had servants and had splendor. The building, the edifice of that survives, and yet it's been taken over by this meretricious corporate mindset where it's like, yeah, now it's run by Stuart Ullman and like he has his secretary and his little shitty office.
Completely charmless, sort of pointless way of running a thing like this.
Yeah, exactly. And, it was formerly this like desired like escape point for the rich and powerful. And now it's just this, it's been reduced to like a resort where any like middle class person who can afford it can come for a vacation, which is like, it's interesting because Jameson's like a Marxist. He's not in favor of like, he's not like valorizing, but he's saying there was something like more honest about the class stratification of the 20s. I mean,
that's one of the things about America is like pretending that it is classless has been incredibly destructive.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Right? And that really comes to the fore in the
this isn't like the UK where there's no social mobility. It's not? Gotcha.
Another quote from Jameson, and there'll be a link to the Brooks and the Jameson essays in the show notes. He says, "It is possible, of course, that such arid and trivial stretches are essentially features of the genre of the horror film itself." Here he's talking about, like, what do we get from meeting Ullman and his lackey? Like in Hitchcock movies, when you meet little characters, they're eccentrics, they're weird. These guys are just utterly empty. There's like nothing to them. And he says, there may be an essential feature of the genre of the horror film, which, like pornography, finds itself reduced to the empty alternation of shock and of the latter's absence. I put it in this cumbersome way because the alternating moment, the mere absence of shock, is today divested even of that content and meaning which were inherent in what used to be described as boredom. Think, for example, of the earlier wave of 50s horror and science fiction films, whose peacetime or civilian context, generally the American small town in some remote Western landscape, signified a provinciality which no longer exists in the consumer society of today. So in other words, like, back in the day, there was a small town that was isolated. Now everything's been flattened. Like, and I've had this experience. Like, you've traveled even more than I have around America. Like, everywhere is so homogenous.
I mean, I'll tell you a story. This is in Canada, but obviously it's very similar.
Yes.
In this regard. But like, I had a job for a couple of years where my brother and I would we work overnight putting up signage in various huge department stores, hanging massive, 100-foot signs from the top of
on sale or whatever, that kind of thing.
And what is amazing is we would go essentially all the way down the St. Lawrence, right? And wherever we would go, you would end up driving on the same highway where there would be obviously the same restaurants that you could stop at, right? And not only that, like the actual blueprint of these shopping spaces were the same, such that you would like know where the Old Navy would be, wherever you were in the country. Once you got to that commercial area, it'd be like, oh yeah, we can go over. We can get a smoothie over there. We can
the Tim Hortons will be there, and
yes,
this will be there.
Exactly. The Walmart's there. It's like, and it's designed in the exact same fashion. And I've spent a ton of time on the road, and that's like one of the most desperately tragic things about living in this era. Precisely that everything feels exactly the same. It's the same way even in like housing in New York City. The way that all these renovations with like the fake granite kitchen island and everything is white and black, and like all the original fixings that make these things unique, it's all coming down just to sort of like,
it's been denuded in
like you too can live in an Airbnb.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, I just remember when I would go around for conferences and stuff, and you'd be in Atlanta, you'd be in Denver, you'd be even in LA. Like, there were just vast stretches, Florida, vast stretches of the country where, all right, the climate's a little different. All right, you're in Denver, there's some elevation. Oh, is that a mountain in the distance? But like, all the restaurants are the same. I mean, exactly what you're saying. And I think that's what he's getting at here, right? Yeah. He says, going on, clearly enough, this very triviality of daily life in late capitalism is itself the desperate situation against which all formal solutions, the strategies and subterfuges of high culture as well as of mass culture emerge. How to project the illusion that things still happen, that events exist, that there are still stories to tell in a situation in which the uniqueness and the irrevocability of private destinies and of individuality itself seem to have evaporated. This is the plight of Jack in the movie. He wants to be a writer, but what's the only thing he can do is write all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy, right? Like that's like the entire content of his interiority is like he's been reduced to this automaton by the realities of contemporary life, right? He talks about this going forward. He says that Jack Nicholson of The Shining is possessed neither by evil as such, nor by the devil or some analogous occult force, but rather simply by history, by the American past as it has left its sedimented traces in the corridors and dismembered suites of this monumental rabbit warren, which oddly projects its empty formal afterimage in the maze outside. Significantly, the maze is Kubrick's own addition, right? That's a good point. Like, the maze is not in the novel. That's something Kubrick added. Yet at this level, the genre does not yet transmit a coherent ideological message. as Stephen King's mediocre original testifies. Kubrick's adaptation indeed transforms this vague and global domination by all the random voices of American history into a specific and articulated historical commentary, as we shall see shortly. Jack Nicholson is not a writer, not someone who has something to say or likes doing things with words, but rather someone who would like to be a writer, who lives a fantasy about what the American writer is, along the lines of James Jones, or From Here to Eternity, or Jack Kerouac. And even that fantasy is anachronistic and nostalgic. All those unexplored interstices of the system, which allowed the lumpens of the 50s to become, in their turn, figures of the great American writer, have long since been absorbed into the sealed and achieved space of consumer society, right? So all that's left, if you want to be a writer, in essence, is to be Stephen King, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen this just become more and more the reality of society as the years have gone by.
Well, and like
right?
the apotheosis of this is happening right now, which is that AI is the only writer. Right?
Yeah, well, sure.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's like an absolute literalization of this.
Even like the seamlessness of the necessity of merging creative and commodity, right?
Yeah.
And that's even like as the good things that happen in this sort of system of supposedly ending gatekeeping and whatever, and anyone can do it. And at the end of the day, whether it's stand-up comedy or poetry or art or writing, you're also your own brand ambassador now, right? You're also running your own publicity campaigns. You are publishing the work yourself, whether through
with the help of Substack. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so like all of the sort of romantic notion of writing is constantly running up against the very visible element of capital and consumer society, such that like you're not separate from it, even in the act of creation anymore. And there's sort of like almost across the board, a seeming white flag to that, like that's just the cost, ironically, of doing business.
Yeah. And so like what Jameson concludes the essay by saying is that like for Jack, like the real problem is there's no knowable community available to him anymore. He wants to be a writer. He has nothing to say. He has no aesthetic or human community he can affix this to himself to, aside from the family, which he hates, right? Like, I mean, and he's stuck with them in this winter hotel that is like a relic of a time when that might have been possible. You think of F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby, Ernest Hemingway, just like the modernist era, 1920s. What Jameson says in wrapping up is where to search for this knowable community, to which even excluded the fantasy of collective relations might attach itself. I think that's another important point, right? That like, even if you're an outsider, well, you have something to be on the outside of. But I mean, and this is more true today, 45 years later, than it was in 1980. But like,
for sure,
you can't be an outsider anymore because there's no inside. Like everything is just fragments, right?
Well, I mean, the other thing is like, I find it somewhat interesting in this analysis that Jack's previous life is as a teacher, right?
Yeah.
Which it's interesting because it's like the idea of chasing this high or this more important, meaningful life of going alone as a writer. It's interesting to know that like if this is about the decline, right, that the sort of idea that teaching would necessitate the thought that Jack at one point did have something to bestow, something to say, a community to be part of, to help the education of others in his community.
Right, or at least like an instinct towards selflessness of some kind.
That's right. And in pursuit of this other aim, has sort of deadened out his and carved out any meaning from his own life, such that now all he can do is write the same sentence over and over again.
No, absolutely. So he can't.
Great movie.
He has no collective to attach himself to. And Jameson says it is surely not to be found in the managerial bureaucracy of the hotel, as multinational and standardized as a bedroom community or motel chain, nor can it any longer take seriously the departing vacationers of the current holiday season on their way home to their own privatized dwelling places. It has only one direction to go, into the past, And this is the moment at which Kubrick's rewriting of the novelistic original takes on its power as an articulated and intelligible symbolic act, right? So, I mean, King's novel is just a ghost story. There's a haunted hotel. A lot of murders happen there, and people that go there. His Jack Torrance is a good man who's driven to evil by malevolent outside forces. I think Kubrick's genius is to show us a Jack who is in no sense a good man, who has no redeeming qualities, because those qualities have been sucked out of him by the realities. I mean, look at him.
Right. The question is, like, it's at this point, whatever he was like in Vermont, whatever he was like as a teacher,
or as a kid, when he was a kid growing up, whatever.
Right. Is it even possible for him to be a good person anymore, and to have a meaningful life?
And the answer is clearly no. And it's so funny to me that King just hates this so much. King took it personally because he was like, no,
I can see that. I could absolutely see
I'm a good guy. I was an alcoholic who struggled, who had thoughts of hurting his kids, but didn't. Jack is like my reflection of me.
I think it's also just as simple as, like, if I can see the idea of, like, you write the book, right? Then Kubrick comes along and, like, really treats it as kind of clay, right? Like, really alters the meaning and makes it genius. It's a huge slap in the face. It's like, it's almost like taunting someone like King. Like, look what you're not capable of. You had all of this stuff here to make something important, and instead what you did was drivel. Hand it over to me, and I'll turn it into a masterpiece. Here you go. I can see if you're Stephen King, you're like, whoa, I hate this.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Torrance would also hate that, right? I mean,
that's right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think the end of the world aspect of the film is precisely what Jameson kind of puts down for us. That like this is about an America being denuded of possibility, of value, and of meaning, and that the reaction to that is insanity. And I mean, we can even see this in the prevalence of family annihilations, mass shootings, and acts of random, undifferentiated violence that have, occurred with such greater,
and also, like, the soft violence of things like AI, the ability to completely dehumanize both an individual, but also, like, knowable communities, right? There's a power in the fact that these communities don't exist, that they're not organized. The likes of, Altman and being able to be like, it's going to be a tough run here. A lot of jobs will go away, right? Like, that wouldn't be possible.
AI might just turn us all into Jack Torrance.
Right.
We got a little preview of that in 2025.
Yeah. No, this is great.
Yeah. All right. Well, both halves tied together. We haven't decided what we're talking about next week, but I'm sure it'll be something good. Mm-hmm. And it'd be good to do some good stuff for a few weeks in a row instead of just falling back into just utter garbage.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, if you like the show, you can, of course, follow us on the podcatcher of your choice. If you really like it, you can leave us a rating and or review on that podcatcher. You can also follow us on Instagram at the End of the World WMS. And yeah, Happy New Year to all. This is another big
episode 101.
101. Great year for the pod.
American century.
More and more people have been checking out the pod, and we greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
And we'll be back next week with something excellent. But until then, this has been The End of the World. Michael and Stu.
I'm Michael.
And I'm Stu. And we'll talk to you real soon.